Last night, I saw La Llorona. I told my family this during breakfast, and to my surprise, they all believed me. This guy says that his family, all they asked him was like, where did you see her? What street? Where was she at? And then they tell him, you barely saw her. We had already seen her a long time ago. Now, this guy says that where he lives is a small town and that a lot of people had already claimed to have seen La Llorona. They have a river that's by their town and also a bridge nearby, and that is where people claim to have seen her. He explains that a while back there was like homeless people living under the bridge, and apparently they had all seen La Llorona to the point where they all moved away. Now, personally, he had never seen La Llorona, and honestly, he just thought it was like an urban legend that people had made up, or people maybe saw a lady that they thought was La Llorona. Now, he does say that from time to time you do hear this lady like screaming, and he noticed how his neighbors and people who live in that town rush to go to a street that is illuminated because they claim that you are not safe if you're in like the area where there's no lights. He does say that the bridge that he mentioned does have a light, but from time to time that light always like glitches or comes on and off, so it's not secure. Now he says that he wants to tell you the story of what he saw, because before that point he didn't necessarily believe the people in that town. Like, he just thought, well, I didn't see it, so it cannot be real. Now he also says that he does not give a fuck if y'all believe him or not. He's just wanting to tell his story of what he saw with his own eyes and what happened to him. So that night he had just finished seeing his girlfriend, and he got on the city bus that dropped him off at the entrance of his town. He knew that he wanted to rush home because besides the apparitions that people claim to have seen, that area was really dangerous. There are people that would rob you, so he really wanted to quickly get home. His sister had recently gotten robbed at the entrance of that town, so he knew he wanted to get home. And as he's walking on the bridge, he says that he sees a whole bunch of guys coming his direction. He explains that the guys looked older than him, and he had just gotten a new phone, so he didn't want to risk it and pass by them and get robbed. Without these guys seeing him, he ends up going up the mountain that is leading still to his town, but he wanted to walk through the mountain in between the trees so that they wouldn't see him. He said he would rather deal with whatever animal was in that mountain versus the guys that were gonna rob him. He knew that mountain very well, so he knew that he was still gonna make it home, but as he went up there, he was still looking at the guys that were walking just to make sure that they weren't gonna go up the mountain to get him. And when he looked down there, he says that one of the guys actually looked up to where he was. Because of that, he said that he went up the mountain a little more, because so far he was just like walking on the side, so he decided to go more up the mountain because he didn't want the guys to go follow him. But when he looked back, he said that the guy who had seen him made like a signal to the other guys that somebody was up the mountain. That's when all the guys turned to look and see where he was, and he threw himself on a bush hoping that they didn't see him. He looked again because he started to hear running sounds, but when he looked, he realized that all of the guys were actually running into the town and they were running away from him. That is when he sees it. He says that he was looking to see why they were running, and there was a lady in white walking right, you know where he was walking to begin with before he went up the mountain? That's where this lady was walking. She was walking really slowly, like there was no rush, and that is when he realized that when the guy was pointing on the mountain, he wasn't pointing at him. He was probably pointing at the lady that was walking just where he was seconds ago. He said that he stayed very still, he stayed very quiet, but he could feel his heart beating, and he's like, I feel like this lady was gonna hear the beating of my heart. He felt that she was gonna see him and that she was gonna go after him as well. After a few minutes, he couldn't see her anymore, and he just decided to start running down the hill so that he can get to the street that leads up to where his house is, where the guys were running at. He said that when he was like running down the mountain, he fell. He had scraped his knees, his elbows, but he finally made it to the road. When he got to the road, he felt a little bit more relaxed, you know, a little less scared, and he started to think to himself, maybe it was just a woman that was like walking home. Why are we all so scared? It was just a normal lady. Maybe she was a homeless lady. Like, we don't know who she is. Unfortunately, that is also when he heard the sound, and it was this lady screaming in agony, and he could swear that that sound just like took over the entire mountains and the town. That's also when he noticed that there was a lady and her young son that probably were dropped off at the entrance as well, and he could see them running, like about to pass by him too, but they were very, very scared. By that point, he explains how he had just been standing there like in shock of that sound, and that lady had gotten to where he was at that point, and she literally grabbed him by the hand and told him, you need to run, that's La Llorona, we need to get out of here. He didn't even hesitate. He listened to that lady, and they all ran until they got to the street where the light post was. When he got there, he noticed those guys, the ones that had ran away, the ones where he thought were gonna rob him, they were all hiding in between the parked cars in that street. He said that everybody had hidden. All of them had their like eyes wide open, just staring at the mountain where he had just been at. He said that after a few minutes, they stopped listening to, you know, that scream, but they all didn't have the courage to move. They were all just there very still and still hiding. He said that all of them felt a little safer being that they were all together, and that for like the next couple of minutes, they all started talking, and they all realized that neither of them had ever experienced La Llorona. They all lived in that town, and that they never had an experience seeing her, and that it was so weird that it was all of their first time experiencing this. They also thought that it was weird that this experience would happen to a lot of people at once. At the very least, he didn't feel like he was crazy or that he wasn't alone experiencing this, but he also never imagined that he would experience La Llorona like in real time in front of him, seeing her in that fucking mountain. Now, after a while, they all felt safe enough to go home, and he says that when he walks into his house, everybody in his family were in their bedrooms falling asleep. I would have woken their ass up. I'm not getting sleep tonight, and neither is anybody in this house. He ends up going to the kitchen, getting dinner, and he's literally sitting there in the kitchen eating and hoping that somebody comes out of the bedroom so that he could tell them what the fuck happened to him. Unfortunately, nobody came out of the bedroom. He said that no one came out, and he just ended up going to his bedroom to go to sleep. And obviously, it wasn't until the following morning where he could finally tell his family that